Joining me now to discuss this Aston result and the day's news is Chief Political Correspondent at The Australian, Geoff Chambers. Geoff, great to see you. Now, Aston, just a historic loss, hasn't happened in a century. How bad is this for Peter Dutton, and do you think his leadership is now terminal?
Oh, look, at this point, it's a massive wake-up call for Peter Dutton and the Liberal Party. They're 10 months into opposition and they would have liked more time, but it's becoming clearer that they're running out of time. And everyone is now expecting, from both sides of politics, an early election in the back end of next year. And we've got the Voice, which will dominate through the back half of this year. So that will, in terms of a political debate, in terms of Peter Dutton fixing those broken state divisions, presenting an alternative vision, he's really up against the clock. And in terms of his leadership, I spoke to frontbenchers and backbenchers yesterday. At this point, they're sticking with him. There really is no clear alternative. Look, Peter Dutton has inherited a mess and he's trying to work his way through it. Look, they've got a lot of challenges ahead of them. The morale in the ranks is very low, and I think that their views that the cost of living pressures and Labor policies would bite Anthony Albanese and the electorate, well, that's been blown out of the water. So it's a real time for them to now, crack the whip and get on with it. And the other issue that will emerge soon is that we all expect Scott Morrison to quit politics by mid-year, and then we'll see another by-election shortly after that. So there's a lot of pressure on Peter Dutton. He understands what that pressure is, and I think the thing we saw in Aston is just yet again the ALP campaign machine just smashing the Liberals out of the park, particularly around modern campaigning techniques, digital advertising. They spent more, they were better targeted, and the attack ads follow the same model as last year's federal election, which went after Scott Morrison. This time they went after Peter Dutton, and it was very effective for Labor.
Yeah, absolutely it was. And they seized on his lack of popularity, particularly in Victoria, which has always been a traditionally soft area for the Liberals. Now, the Liberal MPs are going to meet on Wednesday. This is to determine what stance they will actually take on the Voice proposal. We're expecting, Geoff, that the party room is going to come to a no position. But we did hear Shadow Minister for Indigenous Australians, Julian Leeser, and the Shadow Attorney General, he also holds that position, addressing the National Press Club today. Have a listen.
It's not enough to say that these questions will be addressed in legislation afterwards. You can't out-legislate the Constitution. I raise these issues not only at the technical level, but as a political one as well, because this clause will be the rallying point for the No campaign.
And the Prime Minister then called on Julian Leeser to stick with the Yes campaign. Have a look.
And I'd urge people like Julian Leeser, who has a history of genuine support for reconciliation and advancing the interests of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, to not just vote yes, but campaign for yes in the referendum that will be held sometime between October and December.
Prime Minister, what will you...
So, Geoff, there was initially speculation that there might be a conscience vote, but this now doesn't seem likely to happen. What do you expect? Do you think the Liberal Party will reach a consensus on Wednesday to support the no case?
Oh, look, so the Liberal Shadow Cabinet members will first meet, then they'll bring the outer ministry Liberal MPs in, and then they'll go to the wider Liberal Party room. My understanding is that Peter Dutton and Julian Leeser will present the positions discussed at those prior meetings with backbenchers, and that meeting will test the mood of Liberals in relation to Labor's proposed constitutional amendment and the referendum model. I think at this point it's hard to say whether they'll come to a hard position. There is a joint parliamentary committee that has been set up and met today. There's a handful of Liberal and Nationals MPs, only 4 on that committee, and they'll cross-examine witnesses and review the wording. But I think there's not much confidence whatsoever in coalition ranks that Anthony Albanese and Labor are going to approach this process in a bipartisan way. I think a lot of Australians should listen very carefully to Julie and Lisa. There's very few occasions in modern history where this parliament has had a legitimate constitutional expert like him. And Julian was, I think back in 2012, was involved very early in the days of coming up with the concept of a voice to Parliament. What the Labor model is, they've included a voice to Parliament and executive government, which has both moderate and conservative Liberals concerned. And they're also concerned that there isn't tough enough protections warding against legal challenges in the High Court. Look, I think Julian Lisa will make his own mind up on this matter, and when it comes to a conscience vote approach, that is traditionally how the Liberal Party has approached these types of things.
Yeah, well, it's going to be fascinating because these meetings on Wednesday will set the tone for how the rest of the year will unfold, how the debates will unfold on The Voice. And as you said, Julian Lisa today really accusing Anthony Albanese of not coming to the table with a spirit of bipartisanship and not properly explaining how The Voice would work and to which matters it would apply to. Geoff, the RBA meeting tomorrow, we don't know yet whether the board is going to pause or raise rates. There's discussion amongst economists about whether or not it should continue to raise rates to tackle inflation. Inflation's still high at 6.8%. What are you expecting?
Well, the consensus amongst most economists is that we may see a pause at tomorrow's RBA meeting. And following that, we'll see Dr Lowe's statement. And then on Wednesday, Philip Lowe is delivering a speech. So we'll get a better understanding of the trajectory and where things are going. Inflation has come down from its high in December. So that was a good thing. I think the way the economy is tracking, we're looking at a slowing economy later this year and unemployment going up. And if that happens, that points towards rate reductions, possibly multiple rate cuts early next year. But there is a lot to play out in this space.
Yeah, and the governor probably nearing the end of his term. I mean, we have to take with a pinch of salt everything he says, given his misleading advice in the past. But the likelihood is he'll only be there for another few months. Geoff Chambers, Chief Political Correspondent at The Australian, thanks for your time.